This is the podcast met open vizier. Today we do it in English. The first podcast which is being recorded abroad and in English. Why? That's very simple. We are in Jakarta, Indonesia. We are at the Dutch embassy. I am the guest in the embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. And Marc, the Dutch ambassador in Indonesia, is my guest in our podcast met open vizier. In English, with open visor. Why this title? Well, I am a knight who lives with open visor. In Bahasa, saya seorang satria dengan pikiran terbuka.
Thank you, Alex.
Welcome in the podcast. I said abroad, but we're on Dutch soil, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, welcome to the Dutch embassy. It's at least on this soil here in the middle of Jakarta, Dutch rules and regulations persist. So this is a little bit of Dutch territory. And from here, we represent the Netherlands in Indonesia.
But do I have to say I'm in Indonesia right now, or am I in Holland?
Well, you are, of course, in Indonesia, but here you can follow Dutch rules. So if you're here with a Dutch passport, you're more than welcome to enter. When you're here as an Indonesian, you will be our guest. You're also most welcome. But usually you're here then to ask for a visa, etc. Whereas we try to have this embassy for Dutch people as a little bit of a home away from home.
Well, I always feel a little bit special being abroad and then in an embassy or what's the other word?
I think if you were at my residence recently,
yeah.
So the ambassador's residence, we have that all over the world. We have embassies, and then the ambassador has his own or her own house where he or she also receives people and gives some hospitality.
And it's also Dutch soil in the same way.
Same idea.
The embassy is?
That's
okay.
right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, to introduce you, I have a few very simple questions. So your name is already clear, Marc Gerritsen. Age?
52.
52. Born in?
Utrecht.
Utrecht. Grown up in?
Also in Utrecht.
What is the sort of the type of upbringing you had?
I would say a very open-minded upbringing, but quite strict. My parents, for instance, did not have a television at home. So that was quite exceptional at the time. But of course, with friends and my grandparents, I was able to watch football and all the other stuff on TV. But my parents were not interested in that. They were academics and were more into other stuff.
Okay. Which hobby you had as a kid?
Sailing, I would say.
Sailing?
Sailing is one of my favorite pastimes and has been all my life.
Okay. Education and study?
I went to school in Utrecht, and afterwards I studied history in Groningen, but I also briefly did some journalism in Chicago and Arabic in Cairo.
Arabic?
Yeah.
Okay. What is your current family status?
Married, 3 children. One of them and my wife are here in Jakarta, and 2 other children are studying in the Netherlands.
Okay. Sort of an open question. Your ideal vision of your future?
Contributing to a more peaceful world.
Nice answer. Normally, I would offer you, your family and your staff, a good bottle of wine of your choice. We have a very good and loyal supplier, which I won't mention out of respect for the Indonesian people. And also because civil servants cannot engage with commercial parties, such as companies and brands. Our loyal listeners know, after 4 seasons of podcasts, which companies I'm talking about. In this podcast, I would like to talk to you about your walk in life, your work, the impact this has on you and your family, and your personal life, based on 14 yes and no propositions. The most famous and important number, 14, in Dutch history in sports.
Of course.
Maybe you can mention why 14 is the most famous number in sports and particularly football?
Well, of course, 14 is the number that Johan Cruyff was wearing on his shirt for his whole career. It's for many people almost a holy number, and also here in Indonesia, people are really very fond of Johan Cruyff and his legacy. He's remembered for being one of the very best football players, but also for his social legacy, for everything he has done for, I would say, people who have less opportunities in life, and to still give them the opportunity to play football, but also to realize their dreams. And that is something he
Are they
did.
also familiar with the number, you think?
I think they are, because football here is such a big thing, and they really are very much aware of current football. When I say I'm from Utrecht, they say, FC Utrecht, yeah, they're doing well this season, you know. So they know much more than you think. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the propositions. The purpose of the propositions is you say yes or no. This is the answer. It will be quite difficult, but we are going to talk about every proposition for a few minutes or maybe a few seconds, and then we'll see where we get in the direction of part 2. Okay, the first proposition is I am going into this talk with open visor.
Yes.
Want to talk about that? Can you say everything you want? You have to be careful.
I can say everything I want. Of course, you cannot say things like, and I don't want to say things like insulting people or. And as diplomat, you're used to always being a little bit careful with words, because words can really matter and make a difference. But in the end, my experience is if you explain why you say certain things, people will understand, and there is no grudge against that. People are fine with having a different opinion. So for me, no reason to hold back whatsoever.
So you represent. The Netherlands, you represent also the government. So sometimes you have to say something about, let's say, political statements. And maybe you will not personally, for 100%, agree with such statements. Is that right?
That can happen. This is something you learn during your career. You are supposed to represent the Netherlands and the Dutch government. I think you can make a difference, and you can distinguish saying, well, this is my personal opinion, but you understand I'm here as a diplomat. So in my diplomatic capacity, this is the position of the Netherlands. So again, being open about that, people understand. If you work for a company, you might also have a loyalty conflict, right? That you have a personal opinion, whereas your company does something else. So it's nothing strange to people, and as long as you're dealing with that with an open visor, you're able to say what you want.
Does it happen often that you have to give one opinion on one side of the Dutch government, and that you have to give your personal opinion?
It doesn't happen that often, but in my previous job, before coming here as ambassador, I was in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in The Hague, and I dealt with North Africa and the Middle East. And that is a topic or a region where I would say in the Netherlands there's a lot of emotion about this. Think about Israel, Gaza, Syria, Yemen, Iran, Morocco. Lots of opinions, and the government position is not always shared by everyone. As diplomats, we try to connect people and to stimulate debate. And when there's debate, there's always different perspectives. So it's bridging the perspectives that is my job. It's not so much making sure that you think exactly as the official government position. It's fine if you have a different opinion. That's democracy, right? Yeah. So I don't find that very difficult, although I have lived also in Israel and the Palestinian territories. And if you see what is happening there, it really is very painful to see all the suffering on both sides, and to see what is happening in Gaza is really, I would say, something that I wish we could do more about. So it's not so much a different opinion, it's more of a sense of frustration that I feel sometimes.
I can feel and understand what you mean by that, but it's also pretty safe. You said it in the introduction, that you wish and pray for peace in every part of the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Proposition 2, I'm a huge football fan.
I am, yes.
You are. So you have to say yes. Huh?
Yes, yes, yeah.
You're a fan of FC Utrecht?
I am a fan of FC Utrecht. I mean, a huge fan is maybe not the right word, because if you ask me to tell me what's the current lineup, I wouldn't be able to do so. But I always follow the results, and I'm really happy if the FC Utrecht has won. But I'm more like a football enthusiast, I would say, playing football myself almost weekly. In the Netherlands, I did that with friends every Tuesday evening in Den Haag, and friends for life, because it's really more about friendship and about football. But seeing each other every week, you talk about everything about your personal life, but on the pitch, it's really about winning, and it can be quite fanatic also, and that is life too, you know.
Then your friends become your best enemies. Huh?
Maybe.
At the moment, besides FC Utrecht, I assume you support, of course, the Dutch national team, but I assume you also support Timnas.
Of course. Garuda, yeah, no, Timnas is really has become, I would say, the team I'm currently supporting the most enthusiastically. I was lucky enough to be in the stadium a few days ago when Timnas Indonesia played against Bahrain, and that was really one of the best matches I've ever watched in a stadium. I've been to pretty big matches in Europe. But this was really next level in terms of enthusiasm, in terms of energy, positive energy, people having fun, people singing, people cheering from the beginning till the very end, and staying on, right? Afterwards, you were on the pitch and on the bench, but it was there was so much energy in that stadium. It was mind-blowing.
Yeah. I always think that if the players, if the team acts like this, showing everything they've got in incredible warm circumstances, then the crowd will get even more enthusiastic, as they are. And for us as Dutch people, the atmosphere was amazing. Nobody, even when they were players like Patrick and Danny, when they played in big stadiums with a lot of fans, they did not experience this type of energy in their career as a player. So it was very nice to be a part of that.
It was also clear that there was a good interaction between the team and the crowd. Yeah, right. There was back and forth, a lot of cheering. Whenever there was a nice attack, people would stand up and immediately, give everything, shout till they couldn't shout anymore. And the players really, you see that they got extra energy from that, right?
Regardless the country you play in, but if the players behave like this, so they play football, they cooperate, you see the connection between them, and if not having the ball, they fight for every ball and every meter of grass, and the connection with the crowd is very strong, and they deserve that.
Yeah, it must have been intimidating for the Bahrain team to have
I can imagine
that atmosphere. Yeah. At the same time, it was very cheerful and very, very friendly, and no negative energy, no cursing, no swearing, no nothing, right? And that also contributes to that great atmosphere.
Yeah. Okay, proposition 3. I cross borders if this is in the interest of the Kingdom of the Netherlands.
Yes. That's, of course, you can answer that in different ways or interpret that question in different ways. The easy one, of course, that's my work, to be abroad and represent the Netherlands in different countries. But but it's also about being able to go the extra mile cross borders, of course, within the law always, but if necessary, I don't mind working 24/7 and really going the extra mile to make things happen, whether it's for Dutch companies or for people who need a passport or who need visa, who need who need help. We're there for them, so we cross borders if that's necessary.
But that's especially you're talking now about your own borders. Are there any other borders you can cross or have to cross? I ask this question because I always ask coaches and players if they cross borders, and everybody first talks about their own borders. And so being able to work not 24/7 but longer as that. But in sport, you also have to deal with an opponent, with a referee, with certain rules. And sometimes you need to be on the edge of the borders and think of as a player, making a foul, or as a coach, being misconducting against the fourth official, which also is a referee.
Yeah.
Do you cross any other borders?
Well, I think you need to be respect your not so much borders but values, right? I think we all stand for humanity, for friendship, and for mutual respect. But of course, when things heat up and when you become really engaged into something, emotion or other reasons might push you towards those borders or in a gray area where you might no longer respect those values. So it of course might be sometimes you might be close to crossing those borders if you describe borders as be going against certain values like, again, friendship, respect, humanity. But I think there are two ways to always make sure you stay within those borders, right? It's close to yourself, close to what you want to achieve. One is to do some things, whatever you do, together. So it's teamwork. Here at the embassy, for instance, we work with a team of both Indonesian and Dutch colleagues, and you really see that if you work well together, you can achieve so much more than if we were all individuals. So teamwork is a very important one to be able to I would say, achieve results that you wouldn't have imagined were possible. So you cross that border of your own imagination, but at the same time stay within the respect of your values. And the second one, I would say, is creativity. Think out of the box. So in your thinking, you can cross lines of, again, going beyond what you imagine. Creativity is, of course, a great, I would say, thing you need to stimulate. You need to give each other, I would say, ideas and go beyond. Here at the embassy, for instance, we do all kinds of things to make, I would say, our work more effective. We very much try to do that by going. For instance, we try to work with Indonesia on making Indonesia's economy greener. Right? It's about renewable energy and making Indonesia ready to combat climate change, which is also in the interest of the Netherlands, of course, and of the whole world. Indonesia being such a big country with forests, with wonderful, I would say, richness in species. If we do that, we also want to do this within our own embassy. So we call that we walk the talk, right? So we work. We no longer, when we have business trips on Java, we don't fly anymore. We take the train. When we talk about the circular economy, right, reusing things, for instance, we also organized. Last week we organized a small market. So all colleagues brought in clothes and other items they don't use anymore, but are still good. Yeah. And we gave everyone the opportunity to choose from those items. And that kind of creativity, I would say, right? Great ideas that are, I mean, maybe don't make a big impact right away, but it's about giving people ideas. That kind of creativity can also help cross borders in your mind.
I can imagine. Okay, proposition 4. Living a political life is fun.
Well, sometimes, I'm first of all, is it out? Yeah, I should, yes or no? No. First of all, I'm not a politician, so, and I really wouldn't want to be a politician because, I admire also, I would call myself a diplomat.
A diplomat,
yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not like an elected politician in a public function. I have a public position, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But I, in the end, a civil servant for the government of the Netherlands. So the Minister of Foreign Affairs is my political boss, so to say. And nowadays, people who are willing to take up a position like that or who are in parliament, I think it's really important that people do that. I admire them because, you try to strive for your ideals. But you'll get a lot of attention, but also sometimes negative attention on social media, etc. And in my position, I'm able to stay away from that a bit more because I'm again not a politician. They sometimes say of politicians that whenever there's someone who becomes a minister, that her or his first day in office is really nice, and the last day is really nice, and everything in between is hardship, hard work, but also this public attention that can be really stressful. It's not an easy job to be a politician.
Despite this answer, you like your not diplomatic, but your diplomatic life.
Yeah, I think it's a very privileged life I get to live. I had the opportunity, thanks to my work, to live in wonderful places like Tokyo and Rome and Jerusalem and now Jakarta. So already that is an adventure in itself. And secondly, within the diplomatic service, I've been able to do lots of different things. I was dealing with the economy. I was dealing with organizing a big conference. I was dealing with more like security issues. I've been engaged in cultural exchange, and all of that is very diverse and all, I would say, always with it's always meaningful because you can always help Dutch companies, you can help Dutch citizens, you can help to bring Dutch interests more to the fore. So I'm very lucky to have this job and to be able to do this.
Yeah. Okay. Proposition 5. I am praying.
Yes.
Okay. You are fond of a particular religion?
I'm not praying in the religious sense of the word. For me, to pray is to think about ideals and how and the ideals are, as I said, for instance, a more peaceful world. It is so difficult, for instance, to achieve peace between Israel and the Palestinians, to achieve the ideal of a Palestinian state, for instance. I think we need everyone's genuine, I would say, contribution to that. And for ideals like that, which are not easily attainable, we need to, give more than just our day-to-day work. You need to pray to really make this happen.
Yeah, I get the feeling that in Indonesia, the religion is important, and at the same time it's very lovingly and liberally, and it's not opposing religions, but it is connecting religions. You have the same feeling about that?
Absolutely. Indonesia is a very special country because of its diversity, right? There are people from all walks of life with all ethnic backgrounds, religious backgrounds. Their motto is the same as as the European Union has. It's unity in diversity. Like Europe, which is very different, whether you're in Finland or in Portugal or in Cyprus or in Ireland, people have very different lives and very different cultures, yet we are Europe, and that's very distinct from North America or from Asia. Indonesia has the same unity in diversity. If you zoom in on religion, people have been brought up with respect for other religions, and within their own religion, and this is a very general remark, but there is tolerance, there is openness, and so it's people have no problem with you having a different religion. And for instance, when it comes to Islam, which is by far the largest religion here in Indonesia, it is a form of Islam that is quite different from other places, in the sense that women have I think within the Indonesian form of Islam have more opportunities. For instance, recently the embassy we started supporting female ulama, which are female religious leaders, to put it simply, and to empower these women to lead their communities and to show that women can be leaders too, which is something that we sometimes, with our Dutch glasses on, if we think about Islam, is not the first that comes to mind. But here in Indonesia, it's perfectly natural. And we want to stimulate that not only here, but also in dialogue with the West and with other religions. And it's one of the strong points of Indonesia, the tolerant form of Islam, which is really a way to look at the world in a tolerant way, but also in a way that stimulates the cooperation rather than differences.
Okay. Number 6. I can still feel the Dutch history in Indonesian society.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that it's a burden. The era of the Dutch here is, of course, an era that that really had terrible episodes with killings, with suppression, with occupation, and with mass murders. Right? We have acknowledged that, and Indonesia has accepted our apologies. Indonesians at the moment are rediscovering that past, and they're revaluing that. They are really fond of the Netherlands for what they have done. They say sometimes to me, if it weren't for the Dutch, we would not have existed as one nation. We would have probably been different, the 5, 10, 20 different states. Mm-hmm. So it was the Dutch that brought everyone under one umbrella, and also introduced one language. At least decided that one of the many languages that's spoken here would be the language of the Netherlands Indies, and that is now Bahasa Indonesia. So for many reasons, Indonesians are no longer holding a grudge against the Netherlands. They think, we have a connected history, and we should see that as an asset rather than as a liability. And that is a great way of looking at this.
Can we also say that the generations who are now alive, they have maybe a bit of a DNA for the centuries ago, but we cannot change anything about our past. We have actually nothing to do with our past.
I think everyone has a past, and everyone should be aware of it. But what you see here is that they look forward and are very optimistic about the future. Maybe much more than when in the Netherlands we look at the future. We look at it with at the moment, quite some pessimism in the Netherlands because of everything that's going on in the world. Here, they're much more easygoing. They see that the economy is growing, that their lives are better than those of their parents, and they also are pretty sure that the lives of their children will be even better than theirs. So it's really in that vein.
It's very optimistic.
It's very optimistic, and for them, history is not something that they should dwell on for too long. But they do see, for instance, that all the heritage buildings from the colonial times here like 10, 20 years ago, most of these buildings were being torn down and new buildings would be put in there. But everything that's still left there, and believe me, it's a lot, right? Hundreds and hundreds of buildings only in Jakarta, but then all over the country. And now they are renovating them. They're turning them into cafes or small shops or museums or you name it. Yeah. It's become hip to be associated with the Dutch past. Yeah. And then on top of that, there's the football. So that is really on a very fertile ground, so to say.
I hope this is a very positive contribution to being optimistic and staying optimistic. Okay, number 7. Living in Indonesia is much more relaxed than living in the Netherlands.
Yes, because you want me to say yes or no. It's of course I live here in a bubble, right? In Jakarta is already much more wealthy than the rest of Indonesia, and with I would say. Working for the embassy also helps. Doors are opened and people are very, very friendly when they hear you're from the Netherlands. But also what I really notice, Indonesians are easygoing and they're not so much about planning. So it depends a bit. If you really like a very structured life and if you really want predictability, then probably the Netherlands is more relaxed than Indonesia, right? Because then you know what to expect. But if you're more like, let's go with the flow. Let's see what's happening today. Every day is a new adventure, and circumstances are what they are, and we take that for granted. Then Indonesia is a very good place to be. There is a lot of traffic in Jakarta, for instance, right?
So I noticed.
And what I really, of course, nobody likes that. But what I do appreciate is that there's no aggression in traffic. So people are sometimes honking, but simply to say, I'm behind you, or I'm overtaking, or thank you, or that kind of honking. And no honking like get out of here and stick to the rules, that kind of aggression, microaggression maybe, that I notice is the case in the Netherlands very often.
But I think the traffic could be a metaphor for the behavior, because in Holland, it's directly blaming each other, and this is not only in traffic, it's also a metaphor for society and the way we live our lives, because it's a bit hasty in Holland, but Dutch people are always pretty good organized, so in the daily rush, you don't really feel that haste. It's pretty normal for everybody. But if you come abroad, like I do at this moment, then you can feel the difference. And being in time, for instance, is for us very normal. But nobody panics if you are 5 minutes late here. And in our profession, it's not very good to come late. Even 5 seconds is very long in a football game, for instance. But the relaxedness, if that is an English word, is something that I would like to inherit.
Yeah, it's the acceptance of how things go, being okay with that, right? And not always trying to correct others or to say this is how it should go, etc. No, just let it happen, and that I would say attitude in life is we can learn a lot from that.
I've had that with many other cultures as well. It's not only accepting, it's respecting another culture, and not only the differences, but also looking for things that are very similar as in ours. And if you have respect for that, then you can connect and combine opinions, behavior, etc., etc. And it is very nice to learn. Okay, 8. This is a very sharp one. Freedom is a greater asset than health. I remind you, the answer has to be yes or no.
Okay, the answer would be yes. I think freedom is the basis for everything. You can be it's hard maybe, but you can enjoy life when you're free and not 100% healthy. The other way around is difficult. If you're healthy but not free, this is really a very, I would say, undesired situation. I always think of Nelson Mandela, for instance, and his mind was free all the time, also when he was in prison. But it's about freedom and about freedom of mind, but also, of course, freedom for a country. Indonesia celebrating 80 years of freedom, and even though they have had hardships, and still there is poverty in this country, and there is a lot going on, but they are free and independent, and that is what makes them where they are now, but also that gives them this great future, and that hopefully also leads to better health, so to say, in a general sense for the population.
And it's a very satisfying and inspiring answer, because it's not, the propositions are not to oppose things, but more to give it extra attention. And I would say our generation, people are between 50 and 60, we in Holland, this is no discussion. We don't know what it is to be even like 5 minutes without freedom. And the older I get, the more I appreciate the freedom we have in Holland, and the more thankful I am and grateful I am to live a free life. Okay, number 9. I lead by a firm hand.
Yes, that's at least what I try to do. I noticed that if you are responsible for a team, and of course you try to be, as inclusive as possible, and as easy going for everyone, to make sure everyone is contributing and is really able to give his or her best. But what I noticed is you need to be very clear about where you want to go, where you want the team to go together, where we want to be in the next few weeks or months, etc. So giving purpose and direction is really something you need. In the Netherlands, we are very much focused on level playing field and making sure everyone is the same, no hierarchy, etc. I've learned over the years, sometimes hierarchy is good because it gives structure and it gives people, I would say, clarity on in what way they can contribute towards the common goal. And they should be able to say what they want, and they should be able to also have, I would say, a say in establishing the goal, but making sure that when it comes to really, when the pressure is on, in the end you can't blame someone who is performing his or her tasks that he or she was asked to do, right? I think you can compare this to football, right? In the end, it's Patrick Kluivert who will have to account for the success, but also for maybe results that are not as desired. So so he needs to be able to really set the course and lead with a firm hand. And of course, I'm no Patrick Kluivert whatsoever, but I try to do that as well.
Yeah, this is why I wanted you to be my guest, because I'm looking for people who are in a leading position, being and responsible for the things you do, and doing that in an open structure. So in football, in your diplomatic life, a president, you do your work by leading on one hand, and the other hand is that everybody looks over your shoulder to see and to control what you do.
Yeah.
And actually every other profession than football coach is easier, because there is no stronger opinion about, diverse opinion about football than any other profession. So.
Yeah. Now, what I said earlier, the team, the coaches have been under a lot of pressure here, right? The whole country, 280 million people, plus lots of others around the world were watching. Is this going to work? This, I would say, with Timnas, with a lot of people who have a Dutch background, which is quite different from what the team looked like only a couple of years ago. Is the experiment going to work?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to perform under pressure, and you did that, and that was really quite something.
Well, there is something strange, and you never make it easy for yourself as a coach. Not to say if you are the head coach, but doing your job under the pressure of 280 million spectators, because that's what it is. This pressure is not so high as the pressure you feel inside, because as a sportsman, you are very competitive. You want to show everybody that you are the best, at least the best in the game you're going to play. And this is an internal pressure that you always put yourself on or under. Yeah. This is very strange, and you cannot, or it's difficult to explain that to others, that this pressure is higher than the pressure of such a huge country with so many inhabitants. Okay, 10. Indonesian people sing the national anthem with far more passion than Dutch people.
Yes. You've noticed that. That's an easy one. No, this is really... it was an emotional time too, right? And they have actually the national anthem, but they also have Tanah Airku, their I would say second national anthem, where
is the song we sang.
Yeah, they sang
after the game.
After the game, and that was almost like it was a bit emotional, right? Oh, everyone was
full emotional.
Yeah, they stayed on after the game, all 70,000 spectators, to be able to sing that song, and they sing it always after the game, regardless of the result. When they lose or when they win, they want to sing that song. It's a song about the beauty of their country. Actually, it's a song that was written in 1945 when they proclaimed their independence. So it's really about their homeland and the beauty of it. It's about how beautiful the country is, how rich the country is, that they long for it. It's their fatherland, their motherland in one. But the song is not about, we need to kick out the Dutch, we need to get rid of our colonial oppressors. No, it's really about their own country. They're so proud of it. And it's a beautiful, nostalgic song. And when they sing that all together to cheer for the team, I must say, I can imagine that for you and the team standing there in the middle circle of the field must have been a very special moment.
Oh, it was. But even a long time before that, when I signed my contract, I directly went to see the games the Indonesian national team played, and then you get the footage which starts with the teams coming on the pitch and then playing the national anthems, and I was very impressed by the way the players who were raised in Holland and had a Dutch passport sang the national anthem. And for me this was not only the best start, but for me, that is the best fundament on which we want to and can build our football strategy. Because if the players just come here to play football and have no special feelings about that and about their ancestors, then I think it's a mission impossible. And when this was the first thing I saw. When I saw them singing the national anthem with the right hand on the heart, then I got the feeling and the thoughts, okay, this is going to work. This is going to work very well. Yeah.
No, I fully agree. You see that when you see them sing the anthem, they you know, if you fly from like Marc does, all the way from Dallas, all the way here to Indonesia and even to Sydney last week, it's you really need more than just think, oh, it's nice to play an international game. No, you really want to contribute something to your country, right? And that is clear. I think the vision of Pa Erick Thohir, the head of the Indonesian Football Association, it makes sense, right? It's not just about who can we give Indonesian nationality on technical legal grounds. Now he's looking at who has this emotional, personal, historic connection to the motherland, as they call it, and that is giving the extra, I would say, energy you need for this kind of international games.
I fully agree. Number 11, communication cannot be direct enough.
Here I would say no. As a diplomat, of course, I'm often ridiculed by colleagues from other countries who really say, "Oh, these Dutch are a bit too direct," and I see that sometimes leads to misunderstandings, but also to I see what it does with the interlocutors, right? With the people on the other side of the table who usually don't say anything when people from the Netherlands are a bit too direct. But over the years, you learn to see a little bit what the reaction is from body language, from the way they look. I learned that mostly in Japan. Right, Japanese will never do anything like the Dutch. They are always making sure that they don't cause any irritation whatsoever for others. The Dutch don't. We tend not to really see that. Yeah. It's not that bad, but it's really.
We need to adjust.
Maybe we do, or at least we should realize that directness is. If you don't get a reaction, that doesn't mean that people agree with you. They probably sit.
Most of the time, they don't. Number 12, we already discussed that, so we can skip that. But religion is being practiced more lovingly and liberally in Indonesia than in Europe, and therefore in the Netherlands. We already spoke about that. So we skip to 13. Football is more important than religion in Indonesia.
Yeah, that's a difficult one.
That's a difficult one. Huh?
Yeah. I would say no, but it sometimes is the same, religion and football, right? But it's in the end, all people in the Netherlands, we're usually saying, I guess I'm religious, or no, I'm not religious. That second answer in Indonesia is not an option, right? You're not. There is no such a thing as not being religious. People cannot imagine that. So it's probably better if you have a Western upbringing, not being Islamic or something else, but for instance, atheist. But in a I would say with a European background, it's easier here to say that you're Catholic or Protestant, then they will understand. If you say you're atheist, they don't really understand. But all have religion as, I would say, their basis. And on top of that comes football or other things they really, really like, and they go for it 100%. But religion is so much the basis here, and actually in many, many countries all over the world. Right, we are the exception in the Netherlands with religion being sometimes overlooked or for many not being their basis of how they are their attitude in life. But in Indonesia, like in many other countries, religion is the basis.
You spoke about Israel and Gaza and the Palestinians. I think it's in this podcast very important and also good to mention that I had a conversation about that with Jordi Cruijff, who lived in Israel for a few years, and he said that he lived among Israeli people and Palestinian people and fully loving and respecting each other. And he gave a few examples of this existence, and it made me more optimistic about world peace than before. So it's also nice to mention that. Talking about Cruijff, the last one, number 14. Professional football clubs must take full responsibility for fan misconduct.
Yes, I think that should be a yes, because clubs can do a lot to make sure that their followers share their values and behave. And of course, if you have sometimes for instance, in the Netherlands, misconduct, I would say this is misconduct by criminals. This is not misconduct by fans. I mean, they call themselves maybe fans, but they are not. Mm-hmm. They are crossing the lines. They are well, I won't give examples, but there's of course there are still problems in that respect in European football, and including in the Netherlands. But I would say clubs should, of course, work with the authorities to prevent those, again, criminals to enter stadiums, etc. After they've committed something. I would say from that time on, should no longer be considered to be fans or anything like that. They should be considered as well. They should take their own responsibility. So there is a limit to what clubs can do, but whenever the fans behave within the law, clubs should do a lot. Also in terms of corporate social responsibility, right? To community service, to really help. I know, for instance, Feyenoord does a great job in working in poor neighborhoods in Rotterdam to really give opportunities to young girls and boys to create a better future through football. Well, that kind of responsibility, clubs, that's a huge opportunity. And if you take as a club that opportunity as a responsibility, that really will both create a better fan base, but also create better circumstances for many people.
Also because there is a limit on what the civil service can do, like policemen.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, well, that has brought us to the end of part 1. 14 propositions, the magic number for us, and hopefully also for the Indonesian people.